Type hinting in Python.
Int or a float or a string, but it's all three of them. It could be all three of them, but it is mutually exclusive here. Again, pause your screen here, look at the syntax, see how it works, and then move on. The next aspect to type hinting is called option type hinting. Now, option in simple terms helps you specify a variable to a specific value or a none value. So if we go to option type hinting here, we import optional function on line 1 from the typing module, and from the typing module, and then on line 3 we define the function greet with the input value name, and that input value is hinted using an optional function which defines that this needs to be a string and the value needs to be none. So here we can change none with a specific value, or we can keep it at none. So basically in optional type hinting, what we do is we specify exact value that we want this function to receive, right? So if a third party is going over your code and he sees a function with an optional type hinting, he'll see, okay, so I need a string here, and that string's value needs to be this, right? Not just a string here. Like we could have simply written str to define that, but he knows exactly what string value needs to go in this function to output results that should be result that should be expected, right? So again, these are very powerful ways that you can help make your code extremely readable, extremely effective, and ultimately your supervisor, who's probably going to be proofreading your code initially, if he's happy from your code, if you make his life easier when he reviews your code, he's going to make your life easier. Now that we have gone over all basic ways, syntaxes, and situations we can use type hinting in, and how to use them in those situations, we come back to the question that I was talked about right at the start, that all this entire topic was started based on a question that was raised to us. Can we use type hinting in Python, which contains both lists and tuples? Now, if you were paying attention to what we talked about in the entire length of the video, you'll realize it's quite easy. You just need to mix and match a couple of concepts there, because we've covered all situations. If you understand everything we taught in the past 5 documents, you'll understand that all you need to know about type hinting was there. But again, to answer that specific question, we go back to we open the document called union list tuple.py. Now, how do we use type hinting in both union, type hinting in lists and tuples at the same time? Quite easy. We discussed a function called union that helps us mention either or situations, either this data type, or this data type, or this data type. That function was called union. Then we discussed that if you want to do type hinting for list, tuple, or dictionaries, or any container type of value, you need to import that specific function from the typing module as well. So in line 1, you'll notice we imported from the typing module union, list, and tuple functions, right? And we have defined one function line 3 onwards. We won't go into the implementation of what that function does. Quite simply, on line 3, you'll notice first input, if there's only one input in this function, that's called data. And the type hinting done there is a union. Basically, either of these values would be acceptable here, in which we include a list with integers, or a tuple with 2 ints, right? And the output is an int. Now, just to give a more clear context, let's just go delve a little bit into the function that we have defined here. So in the first function, we test if the data is a list or not. If it is a list, we return the sum of the entire values within the list, right? Else if it's the data is a tuple, we add the data, tuple value 0 and tuple value 1 and return that value. Otherwise, we use a raise a value error and say it's an invalid data type. So you'll notice both of these situations, if and elif deal with tuple and list, and they deal with specific instances of tuple and list, right? So if a string is set in, string list value is sent in, it's probably gonna raise a value error, right? Because it's an invalid data type. And if you use a tuple with a string or a floating point number, probably that's the case as well. But the thing is, uh, like we can't exactly do type hinting to specify or enforce runtime usage, right, in Python. And that's both a benefit and a problem, because a benefit would be that enforcement of type hinting in C, for example, leads to the fact that any person who's using your code puts in the wrong data type, the code is going to break and raise, say that, code can't function because the data type was wrong, right? With Python, that becomes a little bit debugging, or a challenge is that if you don't enforce runtime data types, uh, sometimes you don't realize there's a bug at all, right? But the function does not work as it's supposed to. So here, using type hinting, we tell you this needs to be a list, and this needs to be a tuple. And within the list, it needs to be a list with only integer values, and within tuples, then the values can only be two int values, right? And that is how this function would work properly. So now that we understand how we can use lists and tuples at the same time in type hinting, we'll just run this code. We've implemented some sample implementation from line 13 onward. We've defined a list on line 14, and we have defined a tuple on line 15. We save the result from running this function on the list data on line in the variable on line 17 called result from list, and the same on line 18 for a tuple called result from tuple, and then we print both of these values. When I'll run this code, we get result from list 10, result from tuple 11. That should be the result, and that is basically all you need to know about tuples. And in specific answer to that question, all you need to know how to implement list and tuple type hinting together. From all our conversation just now, I think you'll understand exactly why type hinting is so important in Python. It's not mandatory because Python is a dynamically typed language. However, it improves code readability and helps catching potential errors early in development. So this becomes very important when you are working in a big team, working on programs which have thousands of lines of code. And somewhat it's becoming recently a mandatory part on a professional level for companies to mandate the use of type hinting to make their processes more streamlined in their style guides. So again, with that, we're going to wrap up our video. Uh, uh, George, would you like to add anything at the end?
No, I think you covered everything. All I can say is just please like and comment with any other suggestions you have for future videos. That's it, Mohammed. Great work.
And with that, we'll see you on our next video.